So here I have in front of me today is 3 of the new Yu-Gi-Oh! Structure Deck, 3 copies of Albaz, or Structure Deck Albaz Strike. Possibly one of the most revolutionary structure decks to be released in 2022, as far as we know, because we don't know any other ones that are going to be released, but this is the first one, and my god, is it amazing. Reprinting cards like Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, which is something extremely meta relevant currently. Reprinting Pot of Extravagance in common. Reprinting Chaos Dragon Legionnaire. Reprinting Artifact Scythe. Reprinting things like Titaniclad the Ash Dragon. Reprinting Tikaboo, Dimensional Barrier, and other really nice cards. But also printing new cards, such as the Branded Fusion, which will now see play in tons of decks. So again, this structure deck is easily one of the most competitive structure decks brought to us from Konami in quite a long time, and I'm going to be opening one of them, all 3 of them, because, yeah. And if you're wondering why I'm so excited for this product, it's because combining it with one other product, which will be releasing right around next month, give or take. Wow, this is horrible. Okay, we're gonna ignore how horrible that opened that, but yeah, this was one of the biggest structure decks, and it had it had the best care placed into it by Konami. I mean, here's your paper playmat here. Looking nice and cool. And on the back here we have the lore, which again, this is like one of the first structure decks I believe to ever do something like this. And then here we have some combos, and we have other cards from other sets, specifically Burst of Destiny. We have Branded in red, and the Ecclesia in white, which is being seen in lots of Sword Soul decks. Actually, all Sword Soul decks, I believe, it sees play. But yeah, this structure deck easily is the most Konami has put care into in the more recent structure decks. As we know, we got the Egyptian God structure deck, which, let's just say it was only valuable for Harpy's Feather Duster. And then I think we got, no, the Charmer structure deck was after Phantom Rage. We got, man, what was before it? I think it was the Ice Barriers, and then it was the Charmers, and then it was the Sacred Beast. And the Sacred Beast structure deck was the last structure deck I was like really looking forward to, other than this one, of course. And like the Egyptian God one, I was looking forward to because it was like it reprint the gods, and then when it revealed that it was going to be reprinting Harpy's Feather Duster, I was like, wow, I want to buy that structure deck, really only because Harpy's Feather Duster is being reprinted in it. But yeah, this structure deck easily, Konami put the most care into it. Now, you've probably seen hundreds of videos like this if you're in the, I guess, Yu-Gi tubing space, but I won't be putting together 3 of the structure deck to play as a deck. I'll be placing it in my Predaplanets list to see how it plays with those cards. So starting off, we have a new Tri-Brigade Mercarier. When your opponent activates a monster effect while you control a fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz, as material quick effect, you can send this card from your hand or face up on the field to the graveyard, negate that effect. If this card is banished, you can add from deck to your hand 1 Fallen Albaz or 1 monster that mentions it except itself. So, I don't know if this is I guess, like, it could be a decent Tri-Brigade monster, but I don't think many Tri-Brigade decks will be running this unless they're going to be running a Branded Fusion package, which doesn't really make any sense. Next, we have Spriggan's Kit. If you have a fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz as material on your field, you can switch them on your field or in your graveyard. You can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add to your hand one of your branded spell traps that is banished or in your deck or graveyard. Then place 1 card from your hand to the bottom of the deck. That is quite the effect. The Golden Sword Soul. When a monster declares an attack, you can special summon this card from your hand. and if you do, negate that attack. Then, if you control a fusion monster that mentions Fallen Albaz as material, you can destroy the monster that declared that attack. If a monster is banished face up, except during the damage step, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard. Special summon one light spellcaster monster from your hand or graveyard whose attack equals its own defense. So again, like, it kind of merges the Sword Soul, the Spriggans, and the Tri-Brigade archetypes pretty closely through the structure deck. Here we go. Here's one card that we'll actually be needing quite desperately, and one that was also seeing quite good hype. Mirror Jade, the Ice Blade Dragon. It's a worm fusion monster with 3,000 attack and 2,500 defense, or 2,500 defense, whatever. You can only control one of this card. Quick effect: you can send one fusion monster from your extra deck to the graveyard that mentions Fallen of Albaz as material. Banish one monster from the field. Also, this card cannot use this effect next turn. If this fusion summon card and its owner control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, destroy all monsters your opponent controls during the end phase of this turn. So again, quite a really good card, something we'll definitely be using. Next, Lubellion the Searing Dragon. Definitely a card that we needed for our Predaplants deck, and also a card that we'll be needing when Dimension Force releases. Requires one dark monster and one Fallen of Albaz. If this card is fusion summoned, you can discard one card, fusion summon a level 8 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck, except itself, by shuffling fusion materials that into the deck from your field, graveyard, or face up banished. And then for the rest of the turn, this card cannot attack, and also you cannot switch summon monsters from the extra deck except fusion monsters, which in Predaplants is not a problem. Next is Branded Fusion. Easily probably going to be the most expensive card in the structure deck. This card is essentially like a Shaddoll Fusion, minus the fact that your opponent needs to control a monster from your extra deck. You can just fusion summon from your extra deck, as long as it's a like Lubellion or the Albion, the Searing Dragon. So I mean, pretty cool. Definitely a card that will be played. Branded Sword. I've never actually read, like, beyond this point, I haven't read any of these cards. Like, I did not read these three, obviously. Branded Sword, banish any number of branded spell and traps from your graveyard, special summon that many Ice Blade tokens. And then special summon that many Ice Blade tokens. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one banished monster that has Fallen of Albaz or mentions it. Add that monster to your hand. Not a bad card, actually. It's pretty nice. Branded Retribution. When a spell trap or monster effect is activated that includes an effect that special summons a monster, return to the extra deck one face-up fusion monster you control, or two fusion monsters in your graveyard that mention Fallen of Albaz as material. And if you do, negate the activation, and if you do that, destroy the card. You can banish this card from your graveyard and target one branded spell or trap in your graveyard except itself, add it to your hand. Pretty nice card. And then now we'll be getting into the commons. Fallen of Albaz. If this card is no one special summon except during the damage step, discard one card, fusion summon one monster from your extra deck using monsters from either field as fusion material, including this card. But you cannot use other monsters you control as fusion material. Essentially 1/1 removal, and this card will see a lot more play only because of Branded Fusion, and we'll need it because of it. Albion the Shrouded Dragon. This card's name becomes Fallen of Albaz when on the field or graveyard. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can send one Fallen Albaz or branded spell trap from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and then apply the following effect based on where you send it from. Hand, you special summon this card. Deck, place this card on the bottom of the deck, then if you place this card from your hand, draw one card. Again, not a terrible card. Dogmatica Fleur-de-Lis the Knighted. A nice reprint, but it was already reprinted in the 2021 Megatin, so it wasn't the most necessary, but still a pretty nice card. During the main phase, if a monster special summon from the extra deck is on the field, special summon this card from your hand. Then, if you control another Dogmatica monster, you can negate the effects of one face-up monster on the field until the end of this turn. And then it boosts Dogmatica monsters when they declare an attack by 500, which is pretty nice, but won't be needing it. Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. I don't want to say it's a really nice reprint because it was reprinted in El Dorado, but I mean, it's nice to see it in its original artwork. Sadly, in common, but still a pretty nice card, not necessary for a strategy. Thunder King, the Lightning Strike Kaiju, another nice reprint, another form of removal that if we really wanted to, we could side this in, but I don't really see how Thunder King will be very useful to us. Chaos Dragon Levianeer, my god. This card was really always expensive and truly is what made Dragon Link the kingpin it was. Continuing the Chaos archetype, it allows you to banish, I think, 3 light or dark monsters, and based on what you banished, you apply certain effects. If you banished only light monsters, you would revive one, special summon 1 monster from your graveyard in defense position. If you only banished dark, you'd loop a card out of your opponent's hand. And then if you did both, you non-targeted destroyed 2 cards on the field. Not a bad card. Definitely good for people who want to get into Dragon Link. And this whole structure deck is too. Radiant, the multi-dimensional kaiju. I already had 3 of this from the Sacred Beast structure deck, but very nice to have a reprint. And plus, with super polymerization, you never know. Artifact Scythe, a nice reprint. Sadly, I think this kind of means that it won't be hitting the ban list anytime soon, which is fine by me because Artifact Scythe, although a powerful card, it has its own ways of being stopped, but I do think it is a little bit broken. White Dragon Wyver Burster. You cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand by banishing 1 dark monster from your graveyard, and then can only be special summoned once returned this way. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 Black Dragon Collapse Serpent. Again, Black Dragon Collapse Serpent. Be kind of foolish to include one without the other. Black Dragon Collapse Serpent, you banish a light, special summon it, and if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you add White Dragon Wyver Burster. And then Starliege Safert Dragon, or Safert, whatever. Send any number of dragon monsters from your hand or face up on the field to the graveyard. Add 1 dragon monster from your deck to your hand, whose level equals the total original levels of those sent to the graveyard. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 level 8 light or dark dragon monster in your graveyard, add it back to your hand. Again, very nice for Dragon Link players. Keeper of Dragon Magic. Now, I've never actually read this card. This card is normal special summon. Discard 1 card, add 1 polymerization normal spell or fusion normal spell from your deck to your hand. I might have to play this. You can reveal 1 fusion monster in your extra deck, special summon one of the fusion materials mentioned on the monster from the graveyard. And then, it's in face-down defense position, but you can fuse with it still, so very nice card. Summoner Monk. Oh, man. We are Summoner Monk. Basically, once per turn, you can discard 1 spell, special summon 1 level 4 or lower monster from your deck. That a monster cannot attack this turn. Nowadays, that cannot attack this turn does not mean anything. Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit in its original artwork. Very prevalent when you're going up against any deck that runs an adventure token engine. When a monster on the field activates its effect, or when a spell or trap that is already face up on the field activates its effect, quick effect, send this card from the hand or field to the graveyard, destroy that card on the field. And then Effect Veiler, been reprinted in multiple structure decks at this point. Basically, you can, during your opponent's main phase, quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, target 1 effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effects till the end of the turn. Then Omni Dragon Brotar, card that was very much in need of a reprint. If a monster you control is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can special summon this card from your graveyard if it was there when the monster is destroyed, or hand even if not, but banish it when it leaves the field. If this card is special summoned, you can target 1 face-up monster on the field, discard a card, and if you do, add 1 monster from your deck to your hand, the same type and attribute as the target, but a different name. Very essential in many Dragon Link strategies, but some don't use this card anymore. Branded Lost. Now, I have not read this card at all. The activation of your cards and effects that include that include an effect that fusion summons a fusion monster cannot be negated. Oh, okay. So first part of that is like magical meltdown, but in a continuous spell. Also, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when a monster is fusion summoned this way. If you fusion summon a fusion monster, you can add one Fallen of Albaz or one monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand. So, there we go. We might have to. Branded in white. I think I've heard tell about this card. You can fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material, including a dragon monster. You can banish this card. You can banish monsters from your graveyard as material if you use Fallen of Albaz as fusion material from your hand or field, or by banishing itself from your graveyard. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there to activate the effect of Fallen of Albaz this turn, you can set this card. Okay, this is kind of crazy. I guess if you want to play 3 copies of the structure deck, you'd want to play this, but we currently do not really play dragons in Predaplant. Branded Bond. Special summon one of your Fallen of Albaz that is banished or in your hand or in your graveyard. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn to activate the effect of Fallen of Albaz, you can set it. So I'm feeling a lot of these new branded cards will have that effect to where they can set themselves if they're discarded off the effect of Fallen of Albaz. Oh, Fusion Gate. Sadly not a card that we'll be playing, but definitely an old school classic. During the main phase, the turn player can fusion summon one fusion monster from their extra deck by banishing fusion materials mentioned on it from their hand or field. Man, what a throwback. Fusion Recycling Plant. I actually have a hollow copy of this. I think when it was printed in Fusion Enforcers. But essentially can search polymerization, and then during the end phase, you can target one monster in the graveyard that was used as fusion material. For a fusion summon this turn, add it to your hand. Nice card, actually. Fusion Substitute. This might actually see use. It's essentially like a polymerization, but you can return one fusion monster from your grave to your extra deck, and then you draw a card. So, pretty nice. Gold Sark. Banish one card from your deck face up during your second standby phase actually. After this card's activation, add that card to your hand. Saw a lot of play in Thunder Dragon. Sadly, we won't be seeing. Here it is, the common Pot of Extravagance. At the start of your main phase 1, banish 3 or 6 random face down cards from your extra deck face down. Draw one card for each 3 cards banished, and then for the rest of this turn, after this card effect resolves, you cannot draw any cards by card effects. We won't see play in our deck because we need our extra deck intact. Called by the Grave in common. Whoa. Maybe this is a word that's coming off the limited section, but probably not. Basically, Called by the Grave is hand trap protection, something we already have in our deck. Dark Ruler no more. Nice to have, I guess, an additional 2 more copies in common. This was reprinted in the Charmer structure deck and kind of made waves in that structure deck. But that structure deck was also known for essentially Konami cheating the player base out of some reprints. Screams of the Branded. If a fusion monster is sent to your graveyard this turn, special summon one of your fusion monsters that is banished or in your graveyard. During the end phase, if this card is Judgment of the Brand. My god, these artworks look good. Jesus. Target one level 8 or higher fusion monster you control. Destroy all monsters your opponent controls with an equal or higher attack than that monster. Jeez, man. These are good cards. Necrofusion. It's just polymerization, but from the graveyard as a trap card. Back to the front. Monster Reborn, but in trap card. A little bit worse, actually, because it's in defense position. Warning point: when a monster is summoned this turn, that monster cannot attack. The effects are negated. Also cannot be used for material of fusion, synchro, exceeds, or link. So essentially, it's like no material, but in a trap card. Deekaboo, get out of here. I don't want to talk about it. Dimensional Barrier. You can declare one monster card type: Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, or Exceeds, or Pendulum. Then for the rest of this turn, neither player can special summon monsters from the declared type. Also negate the effects of all monsters with that type while they're on the field. Excuse me. Waking the Dragon. Man, what a card in Abyss Actors. If this set card in its owner's control has left the field because of an opponent's card effect and is now in the graveyard or banished, you can special summon one monster from your deck or extra deck. You use this to summon Last Warrior, your opponent just kind of has to scoop. Alright, now we're on to the extra deck monsters. So we have the Tentacloud, the Ash Dragon. This saw and sees tons of play in Dogmatica variants. And now it might actually be able to see play in more than just send to the graveyard, add a fleur-de-lis to hand. Brugran, the Glory Dragon. I don't think that we'll be playing this card all too often, but I cannot be destroyed by battle while you control this fusion summon card. Your opponent cannot target other monsters you control with monster effects. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add to your hand or special summon one Tri-Brigade monster or Fallen Albaz from your deck. You can only use this effect of Brigand the Glory Dragon once per turn. I still don't think that Tri-Brigade will actually play this card because it's a link deck. Sprind the Iron Dash Dragon. I don't think that's a dragon, but you know what? That's okay. During your main phase, you can move this card to you control to another of your main monster zones. Then you can destroy all face-up cards in this card's column. During the end phase, if this card is sent to the graveyard, if this card is in the graveyard because it's sent there this turn, you can add to your hand or special summon one Spriggan's monster or Fallen Albaz from your deck. Okay, so this one is for Dogmatica cards. This one is for Tri-Brigade, and then this one's for Spriggans. And then here's Albion, like I mentioned earlier, something that will be essential to our combo. If this card is fusion summoned, you can fusion summon one level 8 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck, except itself, of course, by banishing materials from your, I think, hand, field, or graveyard. And during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add or set one branded spell trap directly from your deck. You can only use this effect of Albion the Branded Dragon once per turn. And then we have some token cards. Aluber the Dogmatic, the Virtuous Vestals, Tri-Brigade, Ready, Aim, nice one. Ecclesia the Exiled, and Albaz the Shrouded. There has not been a structure deck where they've had like this little bit of text on the bottom that kind of like shows off its lore. So I think this will either be a one-time thing, how much care is placed into this structure deck, or we might actually be getting like these bigger type of projects more often, which will be cool because imagine if we get like some sort of structure deck for a new archetype and Konami like does this again. Like that'd be so cool. But yeah, this is so far all we'll need, but there are definitely cards like Dimension Barrier, and whereas like Screams of the Branded and Judgment of the Branded are definitely cards I'd be willing to throw around, and this is like a serious deck. Like I could easily pick apart like this deck and I could get like cards that like staple card, boom, staple card, and like these two, staple card, well, depending, I guess, and then boom, Dragon Link, boom, staple card, boom, staple card. Like you get a lot of value from this deck. Like if I were to recommend a beginner to get a structure deck, I'd recommend they get this one because they get the most money for their, or they get the most value for their money. I mean, you get probably a somewhat decently competitive deck just from simply opening up the structure deck, and this is all we simply needed and all I'm kind of willing to experiment with my Preda plants, which should get them out. Get them out now. Like, boom, here they are. But like still, money, like value for your money, like 100%. I think Konami should like focus on making structures that give you the most bang for your buck, because in my opinion how I think buying structure decks, there you go, we're back. Technical difficulties. Anyway. But yeah, I think 100% if you were looking to buy a product and like you're looking to buy a product for someone, or if you were looking to introduce someone into the game of Yu-Gi-Oh, 100% look for this structure. On secondary marketplaces, I would not necessarily look for it, or look for it on like TCG Player or places like that, because the player base knows this structure deck's value. This is a very valuable structure deck, and I imagine in just a couple of months, this structure deck could reach possibly $20 to $30 a pop. And I bought this for about $13 a pop, which even, well, because of inflation, it's above what is normally the $10 price tag. I mean, seriously, the player base knows this structure deck's value. It is a very, 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 very valuable structure deck. So if you want to get someone this structure deck, or you want to buy it for yourself, I recommend you go to an OTS store, because you'll get an actual MSRP price for it rather than a aftermarket price for it. But for now, I'm going to cut away now and open the rest of them and then sleeve the cards, and I'll give you a little bit of a post Albaz Strike structure deck profile. Or like, I don't know. I guess like this could just be it for the video. I mean, overall, I'd say this is a very, 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 very good structure deck, and very much worth your time and money to invest. But yeah, I mean, I still can't believe I bought this, to be honest. This is 3 days after release, but I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will see you all with a post Albaz Strike structure deck product plant deck profile.